Ladies and gentlemen, I am not going to keep my head here because I'm driving, but I'm in the car on the way to South Jersey with ACN co-founder, Mr. Tony Cupisz, who is literally, in my opinion, the greatest trainer, presenter, promoter I've ever seen in my entire life. And he was willing to take this time for this ride along, this leadership conversation. So first of all, Mr. Cupisz, thank you so very much for taking your time to be here and for this next gen tour that we're on going to Jersey. I know you've been like literally all across the country, but if you just do me a favor and share with everybody, you talked in Maryland last night about next gen, but I think it's really important for people to understand just from your perspective why you feel this is such an incredible time in our company. I appreciate it.
Well, first of all, thanks for calling me the greatest trainer, because coming from you, I would say right now, out of all the leaders in ACN, every person in the world in ACN is talking about you and the impact that you're having on people and the influence you're having on people with your passion and your vision and your leadership. So thanks, I appreciate that coming from you, especially you. Oh man, we are so excited. I would say that the feeling that we're having today is the same feeling that we had right before we launched ACN. And I say that because as we were building up to the launch of ACN in 1993, even though what we were doing was challenging, in terms of, when we started ACN, the only service that was deregulated was the long distance portion of people's home phone bill.
Right.
And at that time, when we entered the business, it was really considered late in the game. Because in 1993, deregulation already occurred for 12 years. There were 400 other major companies competing for the same customers that we were. I'm talking major companies. So we were dealing with a lot of obstacles in the early days. So people said to us, "What are you, crazy? Why would you go in the long distance business at this time?" And I'll tell you why. But first, I want to tell you what we were up against. We were up against so many obstacles. As a matter of fact, I believe to this day, the most challenging service that we ever marketed since we launched this company was long distance phone service. And when I say challenges, just imagine this. We had over 400 major companies competing for the same customers that we were.
Right.
So we were dealing with $1 billion advertising. So a customer couldn't, or an IBO, couldn't even turn on the television without seeing commercials from our competition. And those commercials contained very competitive products. Even in some cases, there was smoke and mirrors marketing, so it looked more competitive than we were even offering. So we're dealing with all this advertising. We're dealing with telemarketers. You couldn't sit in your home for 2 minutes without your phone ringing, the competition calling to try to get your customers. On top of that, there was slamming. That was the unauthorized switching of people's service. So even if you acquired customers, a portion of them were stolen every single month. Even for customers that didn't leave, they were just taken by by other companies until fines were imposed.
Right.
That was pretty rampant. The list can go on and on and on how challenging it was at that time. Another big thing is that imagine acquiring a customer and then all of a sudden they receive a check from their previous company for $50 to $150 to go back to that company. So, your friend or your acquaintance that just became your customer had to make a decision, cash a check or become a customer of yours and help a friend and support you in your business. So the challenges were overwhelming. But how did we do? We did incredible. In our first 4 years of 5 years of operating ACN, starting from scratch, with just that one service in those very challenging times, we created almost $400 million in revenue for our first partner. And what's so significant about that number is that the average person spent about $15 a month, maybe $16 a month on average for their long distance phone service. So if you think about that, you have to get a lot of customers to get the $400 million in revenue. Yeah. So why did we do so well under such a challenging time? And the answer is real simple. We had one thing going for us, and that at that time it was very simple to acquire a customer. So simplicity equals momentum. If you have simplicity, you can do incredible things in our business, and that's the one thing that we did have. Okay. And the reason I'm saying all of that is because you asked me to mention next gen, why we're so excited. We have so many exciting things going on today, and if you look at what we have done since 1993, obviously we expanded in 26 countries. We have all kinds of services, and every service that we went into expanded the opportunity bigger and better for many reasons in many ways. But out of every service that we've ever marketed, even though they're all great, even though they made the opportunity unimaginably bigger, there was never a service quite as simple as it was to sell long distance in the long distance days.
Right.
So what's so exciting about right now is as you guys, as most people know, we're getting ready to go into our international convention here in Charlotte, North Carolina, here at the end of the month, and we're going to be launching a new service, and this service is ID theft protection. So at the event, we're going to pretty much cover what we're doing, how we're going to compete in the marketplace, the value of this product, and I can tell you, I have never been so excited about a new service as this service because of many reasons. The biggest reason is because this service will be by far the simplest service to acquire a customer since the day we launched this business, even simpler by far than the long distance business.
Right.
And it's going to create more revenue, and we will have none of the obstacles that we had in 1993. So what you're about to witness just with this one thing that we're doing with Next Gen, you're going to see a level of momentum that you can't even comprehend with ACN. Growth, the size of the momentum in the meetings, how many customers are going to be coming in, it's just going to be mind-blowing. So that's just one of many things that we're doing with Next Gen, and it's beyond exciting.
So you talk about what the company's doing, but and for people that are going to watch this later, I think what's really powerful when I was talking to Mr. Cupisz last night was the level of touring that the founders are doing, like as if there is no already existing very large company. It really is. What blew me away last night for the event that we had was, it hit me as I'm sitting in the room that you're touring like this is a startup.
Yeah.
Like you're touring like this is a startup, and the schedule is insane. But you said something that I think would be valuable about who you're looking for. And as the company's gone into Next Gen, how do you know when you found a Next Gen leader? Like, how do you know when what do you look for in a Next Gen leader?
Well, I'll tell you the reason we're touring so much, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself. Mr. Michael Kane is doing it. Greg Provenzano is doing it as well. We're all working. Robert Stevanowski, he's spending most of his time in Colombia as we're expanding to another country. My brother's in Europe. But let's just talk North America. The reason we're touring so much here, and when you say touring, it is unbelievable. I think I'm flying home maybe 1 day or 2 days a week. Just to change, get some new clothes, repack, and get back on the road. So we are touring today as though it was 1992, 93, 94 when we launched this company. And the reason we're doing it so much is because, as I started talking before, the feeling that we had when we launched ACN in 1993, we knew what was going to happen. Even though there was challenges, even though people said we were crazy for starting ACN in 1993 because of our timing, we knew because of simplicity, we knew crazy things were going to happen,
right.
And it actually did. I mean, we made history with ACN, and I'm telling you that feeling we had then, we have again right now in terms of ACN going to the next level. What we know is going to happen with ACN Next Gen, with the things that we're going to be implementing with technology, the new services that we're going to be implementing, all the things we're doing as it comes together in this year in 2019. Just the same vision we had when we launched the company, we have this revision of a rebirth, a reinvention of ACN that we have to be on the road because we are doing everything in our power to prepare everybody for the level of growth and momentum that is about to occur with all the exciting things that we're doing. But why we're out there so much? We're out there for a lot of reasons. Number one is we want to get a chance to meet as many new people as we possibly can,
right.
to help and assist all of our current leaders in painting the vision of what's going on with ACN. Just get a chance to meet new people that are, where the timing is right and they're looking for a business opportunity. And I tell everybody, look, it's all about exposing what we're doing to new people.
Right.
Just invite as many people as you can, but we are out there to try to meet as many new people as we can, to present the opportunity so they can participate in this at whatever level they choose. But more important, like you said, we're looking for the next level leadership. just like James here, obviously, and all the current leaders we have in ACN, it's hard to imagine that James started just like everybody else. It's hard to imagine when you see him speak on the stage and you see the level of success that he has had to this point, and you know the amount of people that he has mentored. It's hard to imagine that James started just like everybody else and went through the same learning curve as everybody else. But you know, he did, and he made a personal choice to work hard and lead by example and follow through to the end to become a senior vice president. And he didn't do that because anyone pushed him to. He did it because he made that choice. We were as fortunate to meet him as he was as fortunate to meet us. And if the right people come together, you find a person with a vision, and that person with a vision that has that drive finds a great opportunity, a good vehicle in which you could apply that vision and do great things, well, then magic's going to happen. And that's exactly what happened here. And what we're doing is real simple. We want to get out there and meet the next level people, the people that have the heart of a lion, that have the vision of doing great things, but just haven't found that vehicle. Look, people work hard in life. You know, I don't think we work harder than other people, because I have to say a lot of people work as hard, if not harder than we work. Right. But they don't have the opportunity that we have.
Right,
they don't have the vehicle that we have. And it's just, I'll just speak the truth. Life is not fair. If you don't find yourself in the right vehicle, if you don't find yourself in the right business concept, then what you can find yourself is working as hard or twice as hard or 5 times as hard, and maybe you're lucky to get 1/10, 1/5 the opportunity that we have here today. So yeah, we're out there looking for those people, the people that have vision, that want to do great things and want the vehicle in which to accomplish that. And we have that, and we're out there looking for those individuals, and we're going to do everything in our power to find them. And we hope that they recognize what we have when they meet us, and we will do everything in our power to help and assist in any way that we can to help you guys be the next level leadership in ACN.
Okay, so you just said something that I just had to cover my mouth when you said it, about life not being fair. And I meet people all the time, and this is totally your personal opinion, all right?
Yeah.
So I meet people all the time that in my mind, okay, they need residual income.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's always amazed me is when I do a meeting and there's someone in the room that's already successful. They've already made it. I do the presentation, I'm in. And I do the same and in the same room, there's somebody who isn't quite there or is so far away from there. And I do the presentation sometimes, and they're so resistant, or they're so doubting and skeptical, I've never, I mean, I understand it is what it is, but why do you think that the same presentation in the same room, said the same way, someone's already successful, somebody who's not there yet, so what is that?
Well, listen, I'll take it one step further. You could do the opposite. Someone that's already successful, maybe they're not going to see it.
Right.
Or maybe the timing isn't right for them. And then there's somebody that isn't successful. As a matter of fact, they're struggling.
Right.
They're struggling to get through that day, and they're going to see it right on the spot.
Right.
If you take a look at every successful person in ACN,
right,
we could just limit it to ACN.
Right.
But we can really, what I'm going to say really applies to all industries. If you take a look at every successful person, let's just talk ACN. You look at all the SVPs, all the top performing regional vice presidents, and you look at all the people that have achieved Circle of Champions.
Right.
If you take a look at all these individuals, there's nothing common about any of them.
Okay, right.
You can't say, oh, this was a group they're all highly educated. That's not true.
Right.
You know, their ages are different, their races are different, their educational levels are different, their confidence levels are different. Their financial, where they were financially when they looked at ACN is all different. And I would say even the majority of the people weren't successful when they looked at our business. Some of the people I would say most of the people were struggling.
Right.
So really what you're looking for, so the real question you got to ask yourself is, what's the perfect profile of the perfect recruit?
Okay, yeah, okay, got it. So what about, that's perfect.
The perfect profile of the perfect recruit is really finding someone at the right time. Okay, where the timing is right and they're open. So there's 2 things you look for. One, they looked at ACN, and assuming all things equal, assuming the presentation was done properly, as soon as they were introduced to the business properly. Because if they're not, there's a good chance that someone may not see what we're doing simply because they didn't get presented to the business properly.
Right.
Let's assume all things equal, they're presented to the business properly. If someone, the timing's right, they like what they see, they get it, and they make a choice to get involved, regardless of what their background is, and they make a personal choice to follow through, just like you did, just like all the top people did, follow through to the end to become a senior vice president.
Okay.
Now that's the perfect profile. Now, I can't give you anything else. I can't tell you anything else about that person, what their age is, what their background is, what their educational level is, because we can't choose for somebody what their personal vision is. So really it comes down to timing. Our job when we're going out and presenting this business, a lot of people look at what we're doing as selling.
Right.
I got to sell you an opportunity. I've got to persuade you that, and that's really not what we do. There's a large percentage of people out there where the timing simply isn't right for them. And you know, whether their attitude is, you know, whether they're busy, they're not looking for something, or maybe they were damaged in a sense. You know, look, if you talk to someone about the direct selling industry and they're negative about it, I wouldn't take offense to that. I'm at the point where, you know, I've gotten to the point where when someone was negative, I just stopped and said, wow, you know, in a lighthearted way, I said, wow, you're pretty negative about this industry, and that wouldn't make any sense unless something really negative happened to you. Because people form opinions based on their experiences, or they form opinions because they simply took the opinion of somebody else. And it's always good to know that, because you know, if somebody experienced a direct selling concept or any type of concept where it didn't go well for them, they could get a little tainted, and it kind of closes their mind. So I always tell people, it's always, look, it doesn't mean that they're not, that they wouldn't be interested. It just means they need a little more nurturing, in a sense, where I believe it's not about pushing people or trying to persuade people to get involved with us. If there's a glimmer of light, of hope, where someone really wants to do something and they're just not sure, that's why I always say multiple exposures to what we do is probably the best thing that you can do. So when someone sees a presentation, you know, from a scale of 1 to 10, they may have an interest level of 10. Oh, I want to sign up right now. I can't believe what I just seen. Or they could have an interest level of 1. But as long as it's 1 or higher, it doesn't matter how low your interest level is or how high it is. As long as it's 1, as long as you tip the scales, I think I might be interested. That's all we're looking for. Great. Then let's expose them to more. Let's get them to meet some other people. Let's get them to see maybe a second presentation from a different person that maybe has a different way of presenting they might identify. Let's get them to a weekly training. And you know, it's all about, don't just relax, just come and learn more. Watch this video, go to this training, just watch a little bit more and see if the multiple exposures tip the scale. And if not, no problem. Because I cannot tell you how many people I've seen look at our business over the last 26 years. And maybe the first time, you know, they didn't get involved, but you see that same person 6 months later, a year later. We just did a meeting last night. Someone came up to me and they looked at the business like it was like, they saw the business 22 years ago. They came up in 20. Yeah, I saw ICN 22 years ago, and I wish I joined. And I would say, no, don't wish you joined. Just be happy you're here today. You know. But now the timing is right for that very same person. So whether it's a month from the time that you meet them, or 6 months, or 2 years, time changes. Timing changes for people. Maybe the time isn't right at the moment they see it. But guess what? Things change in people's lives. Someone may have a career that they're really into and they got hugely disappointed. And they expected a certain role in an organization and they were betting their life on it. And then all of a sudden they find out that role, that position was passed on to someone else. And they were betting, they were planning their whole life around this, and at that very moment they realized that they put their life in someone else's hands. And at that very moment someone changes and says, you know what, and there's something about the passion that fires up in somebody, and they say, I will never ever put my life in the hands of someone else again, and I'm going to take control of my life. And all of a sudden that click goes on in someone's head, and all of a sudden they cross our path in ACN, and they realize this is a vehicle in which to take control of your life that very few things can offer you. Think about it. That's when the timing is right with somebody. You can't push it, you can't force it, but it happens to everybody. Our job is to find the people at the right time, not push people beyond their time. And if you build it that way, it's a lot more fun, first of all. Because, yes, there's a lot of people the timing's not right.
Right.
But guess what? And there's also a lot of people where they're going to be on the fence. Maybe, they're not really sure. Are they going to tip forward? But guess what? There's a lot of people right now, an overwhelming amount of people where the timing is not only right. If we are lucky enough to cross their path, if we are lucky enough to have them look at our business and join our team, you can't stop them from going regional vice president. You can't stop them from going senior vice president. Matter of fact, there are people out there right now praying. They're praying to meet one of us. And they just don't know ACN exists right now. They're praying for an opportunity. They're looking for something. They want the freedom that residual income can offer. And you started off talking about residual income. I think people people work for money, but I don't know if people understand that even if you have money, the bigger value than money itself is what money can bring to you, and it's freedom. And if you don't have enough money to where you have true freedom, residual income can offer that. Residual income is an income flow that when you build it to a certain level, whatever that level is, that money comes in every single month.
Right.
Whether you work or not that month, whether you choose to work or choose not to work, whether you can or cannot. Look, there are people that have medical conditions and all this, or situations with their family where they're pulled. They're forced to have to take time off of work. Well, if you're in a situation where you only get paid when you work, you'll experience the pain of not having income coming in when you need it the most. But when you have residual income coming in, where people understand what that really is, that income comes in every single month because you built a business where even if you had to take off a month or two or worse, and that check keeps coming in, you experience what we call real freedom. And that's what I think people don't understand, the power of that. So yeah, it's really all about it's just about understanding. You hear it. It's understanding that we're in the sorting business, not the selling business. We're looking for the people where the timing is right, not pushing people too hard, too fast, because that doesn't serve them, that doesn't serve us. We only have so much time in the day, and we want to spend our time looking for and working with those people where the timing is right. Not only are there people that you couldn't stop going RVP if you get them in your business, there are people out there right now that if they happen to cross your path and join your business, you couldn't stop them from shattering every record the top performer has ever done in our business. There are people out there that can shatter every record that anyone's ever done in the direct selling industry. Now, can you imagine if you actually landed one of those people? Because they are out there. Everyone that's involved in ACN, we are not the last of the motivated, excited, passionate people. We are just among the many. We have to find more of us, not worry about pushing those the timing isn't right. I hope that makes sense.
No, that you know what? I really appreciate you framing that the way you just framed that, because that is to think counter that is like it is a scarcity mentality.
Yeah.
You're right. You do push people when you don't feel there's anybody else coming.
Yeah.
Right? So one of the things everybody about Mr. Cupisz is I've always been blown away by, no matter what the situation, there's always positive. It's always great. Matter of fact, that's a good point. I was going to ask you another question, but how did you develop that? Because, I mean, I've been around for over 19 years now. Mm-hmm. And you've always, no matter what season, you've always been able to communicate. It's great. So, I mean, I've sat in circles, I've sat in meetings with this man, and no matter what's going, like, how do you do that with your mind to see the same situation that everyone else sees as a problem and instantaneously make it great?
It's real simple, because I also went through the learning curve that everybody else goes through. I went through the challenges that everybody else went through, and I'm speaking, again, not just on behalf of myself, but every winner in our business. It's hard to believe that every single COC, every single SVP, every single, all the founders, all of us, we all went through the exact same thing that everybody else listening to this has gone through or is going to go through. So to weather the storm, you have to learn how to think about what you're doing. And even some of the stuff I'm sharing with you, you pick up over time. I'll give you an example. I know what it's like to, let's say, want to recruit someone in the business, and you want it more for them than they want it for themselves.
Sure.
And in your mind, you're saying, what is this person, nuts? Their life isn't where it should be. They need more money than anybody. They need help. And you're looking at them like, what are you, crazy? What do you mean you're not open? What do you mean you don't want to follow through? And I'll never forget spending time. Like when I talk about time, I'm talking about like when you're new in our business, we spend all this time with these individuals we care about, and pushing and waiting and trying to inspire and trying to motivate and thinking that we're leaders and that our job is to change people, elevate people, and what happens is, I'll give you a simple experience. I remember doing that one time and pouring my heart into somebody or a group of people, and I remember how much time it took. And I also remember that during that time frame, my personal production of what I was trying to accomplish started to fade.
Right.
Because what I didn't realize is when you wait for someone else to grow or to see it, or you're pushing someone that doesn't want to do it, but you're wasting all that time is being wasted on finding people that want to do it. So I'll never forget going through this time frame, and I was very I was annoyed. I was a little stressed out. I was like, and it was wearing on me. And I remember I didn't realize what was happening, but I was in the business, but I wasn't in the business. I wasn't doing the simple things I was supposed to be doing. And I'll never forget. I just, you know what? I gotta go talk to someone else. And I'll never forget. Within a day or two, I spoke to someone else, and within a second, they signed up in the business. Within a second, they were showing interest. They were following through. They were asking to go to the training. And as a matter of fact, what was even interesting is they made me look at the business totally different, because I'll never forget this one person. So here I am trying to drag this other person for all this time. And then all of a sudden I talk to another person, and they're doing everything faster than I'm asking them to do it. And I'll never forget the person, they looked at me and they said, "Tony," I said, "Yes."
Yeah.
They said, "You are so lucky you recruited me." I go, "I am? Why?" "Because I am so motivated. I'm going to make you rich." I'm going, "Really?" But here's the real feeling that I realized what was happening right there. I wasn't motivating them. They were motivating me.
Wow.
So a lot of times we as IBOs and ACN think that we're supposed to be mentors and we're supposed to go out and create leaders and force them and push them, and but in all reality, our job is not to force mentorship on a person. Our job is we don't create leaders, we find leaders.
Right.
Leaders are leaders before we meet them.
Right.
Leaders don't become leaders because we elevated them. They're leaders before we meet them. They actually take anything and everything they can from us and everyone, because they're going to be going to the top with or without us.
Right.
And our job is to find those people. So what happened is that my attitude changed when I realized that you can't force, let's say, a round peg in a square hole. You can't force the timing to be right when the timing's wrong. And it affected me in the beginning, whether someone was interested or they weren't. But then, I just learned to rise above the emotion.
Right.
Because I started asking myself questions. Just because someone didn't want to do what I was doing, that bothered me at first, like in the original days.
Right.
But then I realized something. Wait a minute. I don't want to do what they're doing either.
Wow.
So just because you don't want to do what I do, and I don't want to do what you do, doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
So I realized that, I just decided, hey, look, if you want to do it, great. If you don't want to do it, great. If you sign up after the presentation, great. If you don't, great. If you get customers, great. If you don't, great. I think our attitude should be simple. We should do everything in our power to present this from our perspective and provide the support that we can. Right. So we can, we want to show the business effectively. We want to invite them to trainings, And as long as we're there, the cards are going to fall where the cards fall. Some will, some wait, some won't. So what? But the so what in a positive way. I always tell people you're not allowed to care about what someone else does. You only should care about two things. A, how do you feel? Are you excited about ACM? Are you excited? Do you have a vision? Are you passionate about what we're doing? That's the first you got to ask yourself. The second thing you have to ask yourself, am I doing a good job? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing with a person that I'm inviting into the business? So did you invite them properly? Did they see the business in a proper presentation? After the presentation, did you invite them to a training? Our job is just to expose them and to let them do what they're going to do, because you can't push someone faster they're going to go, and people are going to go faster than you may be able to control. It's not up to us. Our job is to just be the best, is to present this in the most effective way, and let's see what happens. So I just believe in rising above an emotion and having fun in every part of this business. Just enjoying it, enjoying the experiences. Not to keep going, but I'll say, for example, a lot of people, when you're doing the business and let's say you set up your first PBR, or you're a leader and you're doing PBRs for somebody else. And sometimes the PBRs have unbelievable exciting results. You hear the stories all the time. Joe did his first PBR, 65 people showed up, 20 people signed up on the spot.
Right.
You got 15 customers, and it's like, you got to be kidding me. You hear those stories, it's exciting, right? But there's also the other stories where someone does their first PBR and they invited 100 people and 4 people showed up.
Right.
Or you're a leader and you're driving 2 hours to help someone else and you're doing a PBR for someone else and nobody shows up.
Right.
So you'll get the range of, anything from the worst presentation to the best presentation. And my thing I want to share with you is sometimes when you drive 2 hours and let's say nobody's there, you might feel like you've wasted your time. It doesn't feel productive, but it is productive. Every single thing you do in this business and every single experience you have is productive. Because if you went and did what if you never experienced driving 2 hours and nobody shows up?
Right.
What if you never experienced any challenges? How are you going to relate to a new person? Can you imagine one day you're going to be an SVP? Can you imagine that if someone came up to you and said, oh, I did this PBR and I expected 100 people and only 3 showed up? Can you imagine if you've never had any negative experiences at all? How are you going to be able to identify with that person?
Right.
You want to be able to look at somebody and say, you know what? Whatever you're experiencing, I experienced. And guess what? I became a senior vice president. And if I can do it, you can do it. So every single story, every single moment, every single thing you go through is your personal experience. It's your story. Every one of these experiences are mini stories within your big story. And I always say, he or she who collects the most stories will become the most successful. You just need to learn to understand that everything is important. So for example, again, you said, how do you look at things positive? You just have to, let's say you drive 2 hours and you do a PBR and it was hugely successful. There was all kinds of guests, people were signing up. You identified with the individual. They all identified. It was incredible, right? What a great experience. You need to drive away and just, with your other IBO partners, just laugh and say, wow, this is great. Unbelievable. And guess what? If the opposite happens, you drive an hour to a PBR and nobody shows up, you need to walk away and laugh and go, this was great. Everything is great. Everything is good. Enjoy the experience. Don't look at this like work.
Right.
We're here, we're promoters. We're not salespeople. We're promoting these great services we offer, and we're promoting this great business opportunity. We're promoting it because it's great. Right. And that's how we do our business. But some will, some wait, some won't. So what? Every experience is the experience. You have to enjoy everything. Learn to laugh. Look, we've all been in situations where we've embarrassed ourselves. You could have turned around and you're trying to look cool and you walked head first into a side of a door, almost knocked yourself out. It's embarrassing, right?
Yeah.
And you're so humiliated at the time, or you're walking and you trip and you land flat on your face, or just something, right? And it's so humiliating at the second that you go through it. And what are you doing a week later? You're laughing at it. So I just believe that no matter what your experience is, you need to laugh. You need to laugh when it's great. You need to laugh when it's bad. Just laugh fast, laugh right away, and get on to the next experience. Some will, some wait, some won't. So what? Everybody says, everybody hears this. Success, is a journey, not a destination. And when you hear that at first, that's all great, but nobody wants to hear that during the journey, right? But I promise you, when you walk the stage as a senior vice president, you will miss every one of those moments. You'll be sharing the stories about this happened and that happened. Oh, I remember this and all the good old days. And you will miss it. The experience, the friendships, the travel, the personal growth, everything you experience in your journey for ACN, and you will miss it. So embrace it. Just laugh every step of the way, and it's just a matter of time. It's all it is. Attitude is everything. Rise above emotion. No matter what happens, it's great. Have fun. Enjoy it. It's your story.
Rise above emotion. Yeah. You are so right. Because I remember driving 8 hours. No, I apologize. I remember driving 11 hours to do a meeting. And I get there, and the host isn't there.
The host?
The host isn't there. No one's there.
The host isn't there.
The host isn't there. The host isn't there. Won't call me back. And I drove 11 hours up. I drove 11 hours back. Same day. So I drove 22 hours. And I was like chugging coffee and all this other stuff to stay awake. But I can laugh at that now. I wasn't laughing then. But if I had this personal development conversation before I did that meeting, I probably would have had a very different experience. But I got it.
I remember going to a presentation, and look, everybody, if anybody's been to a basic weekly training that's listening to this, we teach people like tips on how to have a more effective presentation. Like one of the things we try to recommend people is that if you have a presentation, try not to have alcohol there.
Right.
Because you don't want a bunch of people. Look, there's nothing wrong if somebody wants a drink. That's their personal choice, but not during the meeting.
Right.
It's just better to for people to actually be able to pay attention a little bit to the presentation. Can you just go an hour without drinking for a second?
Just happened.
But I remember going to a presentation, and we'd go there, and you tell everybody, you give them advice, and you walk in, and everyone's trashed. I'm like, okay, and you're trying to do the presentation, right? And everyone's just drunk, and then you got a belligerent drunk in the back, and you're thinking, wait a minute, this is not what they covered at the weekly training. But I would say presentations are like thumbprints. There's no two presentations that really look quite exactly the same. So we try to give people guidelines just to keep people as close as we can be to keep these presentations effective. That's the whole point of the advice that we give. But you got to admit, some of these, I wish people were listening to this. I know that the people listening to this, anyone that's spent any time in this business, they're all thinking of stories right now.
100%.
And every story is different. And I swear, if you got us all in a room and we started talking about it, we'd be, by the time the conversation will, we'd be crying, laughing.
That's right.
And what is it? We've just collected stories. He or she who collects the most stories will be the most successful.
That's right. That's right. You just touched on something, and I really appreciate. And I know everyone that's going to see is going to get tremendous value, because I have all these light bulb moments right now, just in terms of how I see things. But you just touched on training, and I remember us having a conversation probably last year about training. And I came out of pharmaceuticals. We had national sales conferences, and I know there are other people that have been in other companies in direct sales, but I've been to some big training events. I've been to, motivational speaker events.
Yep.
But there's something so different about the internationals. And I'm really sold out about the internationals. I think when a person's brand new, they've never been, so it's hard to explain, but what do you think? Because there's other companies in the industry that do events.
Yes.
Why are the ACN International events so different than everything else that you've seen out there? Because you've had a lot of experience in the industry.
Okay. So before I answer that question specifically, I'll say this about training. So our business, when someone joins us, they're an independent business owner. You're in business for yourself from the very moment you sign up in ACN.
Right.
That means that the person that showed you the business or your sponsor is not your employer. They're also an independent business owner. We're a team. So the person above you, who's, let's say, an RVP, is not your employer. ACN is not your employer. You are 100% self-employed from from the day you start your business.
Right.
And the beauty of being self-employed is that you work for yourself. The good news is you work for yourself. The bad news is you work for yourself. Because when you work for yourself, you're voluntarily doing this great concept.
Right.
So it's so interesting how when you work for someone else, and I could just about any career, any job, anything you think of, training is required.
Yes.
It's not an option.
Yes.
Everybody in every city that's listening to this, every city has great companies that, usually get rated as a #1 employer or the employer of the year, or the #1 company to work for is this company, and every city has it. And there's a company in Detroit that's like that. It's called Quicken Loans.
Oh yeah.
And Quicken Loans is a big employer outside of Detroit. Actually, I think they moved their headquarters in Detroit. But the culture in that company is just really good. So people want to work there.
Yeah.
But if you get a job in that company, you have to go through 2 solid weeks every single day of training.
Right.
And before you're allowed to speak to a human being. Because just about any company that you work for requires training. For example, if you work for Danny Bay, everybody knows Danny Bay. He's one of the great leaders in ACN. Great leader. And we laugh. I was talking to him. He's going, yeah. He goes, before I got in direct sales, he goes, I worked for Starbucks. And he says the level of training that he went through in Starbucks was pretty incredible before he was allowed to talk to a customer. Yet we join ACN, and we're all independent businesses, and there's people that don't understand the importance of training.
That's right.
So I tell people, look, if you sign up, you saw ACN today and you signed up, I said, great, on one condition, you agree to go to training. Because we don't want your money. What good is it if you sign up at something and you don't win? We want you to win. And we know the difference between the people that win and the people that succeed quickly versus the people that don't win or the people that win slowly. It all comes down to the knowledge that they have.
Right.
And so we can't make you go to training because we're not your employer.
Right.
So that's why we promote the trainings. That's why we advise people to go to trainings. Everything from your local weekly trainings you have all the way up to leadership special events that are put on by the leaders, but most importantly, the international training conventions.
Right.
The only reason we put these events together is to give people a chance to learn from the best people in the industry, the best people in ACN. And it's basically 3-day mega events where you will have every ounce of information you would want to know about our business and how to win. Everything from how to get a customer, how to build a team, how to work with your leadership team so collectively people can win. You learn everything about the different services we offer. You learn about leadership topics, how to present. You learn just about everything you need to learn to succeed with our great business. And most importantly, you learn it from a different cross-section of people.
Right.
So you asked, why is the ACN event so great? It's because, like, for example, James, I think if anyone's on your team, they've got the greatest leadership that you could ask for. I believe that. Like, people don't realize how lucky they are if they're part of your team because of what you know, how much you're willing to help people, how much you're willing to share with people, and your commitment to your team is second to none. But what it's interesting is that when you go to an international event, someone might say, well, why do I need to go there if I've got James? Because you may hear the same thing from another IBO, from another leader in ACN. Someone that for whatever reason you identified with just a little different.
Sure.
And the manner in which they said it all of a sudden resonated with you, and in a second a light bulb went off that can never be taken from you. And see, it's all about growth, it's all about knowledge, and these events are designed to basically impact everybody across the board. We put a great deal of money in each of these events, so it's not just the knowledge, it's the experience. And a lot of people think international events are motivational events. They're not. You can't help but get motivated, because when you're delivered with enough information, motivation will follow. But these are informational events delivered in a way where the experience you're going to have is unlike any event you've ever seen. ACN by far delivers the best events the industry has ever seen. But what do you get out of these? Bottom line, number one, is you get information. That information will be delivered into confidence. That confidence turns into excitement, and that turns into a vision. And that vision cannot be taken from you, and that translates at the end of the day into belief.
Right.
And belief is so important because people perform to the exact degree in how much they believe in what they're doing. Why are you excited? Why am I excited? Why are our regional vice presidents excited? It's because they know something a brand new person does not know.
Right.
They understand something a little bit deeper than a new person may not understand. So when a new person looks at our business, all we're trying to do is say, hey, get yourself, engaged in the business. But then you want to immerse yourself into as much training as you can so you can get the information. You're playing catch up in a sense.
Right.
If we could just take a chip out of our brain and put a chip in your brain and catch you up to what's going on, you won't be able to sleep for a week. But the only way we can effectively do that is to have you be exposed to as much as you can. And there's nothing like an ACN international event. Like we have one coming up in Charlotte, North Carolina. This one at the end of the March is by far, I would say, going to be probably one of the most impactful events that we have had in the last 15, 16 years, because we're going to be rolling out ACN NextGen. We're going to be rolling out our new services. We're going to be pretty much going over the game plan, the strategy, and everything of how you're going to see 2019 shatter every record that you've seen in ACN since the day we launched this business. And we are beyond excited. So this particular event, I always recommend people. I never push you to join ACN, but I have no problem saying I push people to go to international events.
Right.
Because the above average people are the ones that attend these events, and above average people are above average because they do what average people will not do. Simple as that. It's not easy. I'm not going to minimize that. You got to travel out of state. You got to change your schedule. There's costs involved. I just tell people, look, do the best you can. Share transportation. Share hotel rooms, whatever. You got to keep the cost down. But if you go to an international event, it will be the most impactful, exciting thing that you've ever done. And that just stretching, doing what average people will not do. Be above average. Show up at that event. You just watch what happens. You watch what happens. And I'll tell you this, don't go by yourself if you're new. Bring at least one person with you, because you're not going to want to come home and be the only person that knows what you just learned.
100%. 100%.
So, yeah.